Good evening, televiewers. We're glad to have you in front of your screens to follow this edition of Prime on My Media Prime. This day we are going to be looking at the Back to School campaign, a campaign that is dear to the government of Cameroon, also very dear to the parents of the southwest and northwest regions, but also the new twist coming from some of the pro-independence activists who also have joined the call for children to go back to the classes in the southwest and northwest regions for the 2020-2021 academic year. We are going to be looking at this in addition to the call for manifestations across the nation by the CRM and its coalition calling for the population to move out en masse on the 6th of October to oust the President of the Republic. They are saying that it is going to be a weekly activity every Tuesday, that the population is expected to go out to do what is described in French as le chassement. We're discussing this with our panelists who are already in the house. Apostle Ambe is here with us. Good evening, Apostle, and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening, my co-panelists. Good evening, viewers of Prime Hour. It's always an opportunity to be here to sensitize the public and to inspire our people as we move from one stage of life to another. God bless you.
We equally are in the company of Andrin Atem Ebako. We're glad to have you once again with us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leo, and I thank my panelists, Apostle Ambe, and all the viewers of my Media Prime, and all the Cameroonians, and especially those who have been victimized in the northwest and in the southwest. Thank you very much.
We are struggling to get in touch with Padi Asanga, who is supposed to be a part of today's discussion. We hope that we successfully get through to him to join us and discuss what is supposed to be our topics for discussion today. We'll start with you, Apostle Ambe. Are you surprised that some activists are now championing the call for back to school?
No, Mr. Lee, I'm not surprised. Progressively in life, when you grow, you make decisions based on how things appear in front of you. You cannot hold on to former decisions when things are evolving in another dimension. Any reasonable Anglophone at the level we are right now will stand in front of any audience to address that school should resume. Because a child that constantly bites the mother's nipples is not only hurting the mother, but depriving himself from food. If we keep on resisting children from going to school, we are not in any way hurting the Cameroon as a whole. We are hurting ourselves. We are hurting our children. In the first place, it's very difficult for a child to leave school and stay at home, and then the child is asked to go back to school. At least, for now, Anglophones children have stayed in the house for at least 4 years. And for them to go back and enter classes like Form 1 again is going to be very, very difficult, because some of them feel already too old to go back to school. Psychologically, they are discouraged. Physically, they have outgrown their age, and we take the grace of God to convince a man who is about 16 years to go back to school and enter Form 1. Secondly, we intended boycotting schools earlier because we thought we wanted to block our children from being intoxicated with the Francophone culture. But I say we are instead acting on the opposite. More of our children have migrated to the French-speaking region of the country, and if it's assimilation they are talking about, they have been more assimilated now after the crisis than they were before. Children who never knew French, who could not speak French, who could not greet bonjour, who did not know the centers of the Francophone region, because of the crisis, they have migrated here, and they automatically have learned how to speak French. So I'm wondering, what kind of battle are we fighting? We are making more of Francophones than Anglophones. And the other issue is that it's very, very dangerous, because not everywhere in the English-speaking region, as I said earlier, is affected with the crisis. There are places that have refused to allow their children stay at home, places like Kamer. Now, a child that left primary school in a corner, class 6, 4 years ago, is still in class 6. And the one that left primary school in Camer 4 years ago will be writing GC the next academic year. That's a vast gap between two personalities. The children who have overstayed in the house, most of them have entered into a lot of things that they were not supposed to enter. You hear about children carrying unwanted pregnancy, premature, because they are not focused. They used to say in English that the idle mind is the devil's workshop. So I think the call for back to school is a very noble call for every Anglophone to sit and reason that we cannot be losing human beings as well as losing our minds.
Okay, you surprised that some activists are joining the chorus to call for back to school in the likes of Eric Tato and Mark Barretta.
Well, it is still not too little, too late. I think that the people on ground zero, or the separatist fighters, or the Ambazonians who are on ground resisting the current system, should have made a decision that uphold the spirit of its people and did not need to wait for whether it's a Mark Barretta or whosoever is in the diaspora to give the idea or the opinion that schools should go back, the schools should resume back in the northwest and in the southwest. You see, but still, like I say, when you apply a law or a system very strictly, it's already an indication that there's something wrong with it, because as time changes and as the year progresses and as things evolve, you should also be able to apply dynamism in your decision. Because we realize that as it stands right now, we are talking of that the people in those areas have already lost about 4 years of education. We are not talking about in terms of development. We are about 20 years behind time. So you see, at the end of the day, if we Cameroonians would not start looking at what really would be the advantage for our children, because many of these children that we are talking today, a lot of them, about 16 million of the youths in Cameroon today, were not even born when some of these our leaders took power. So we cannot allow these children at this point, whereby we are making certain decisions that is going to affect their future, and uphold them to be the prices to be paid for us to achieve the kind of ambitions that we are looking forward to. So the children should have been spared out from the very beginning, because at the end of the day, these are the children that we are fighting for to have a better future. So we should be able to make those sacrifices and to give them that possibility of looking at the future like a brighter one, and not what we are seeing today now in the northwest and in the southwest. We cannot count how many children have already died due to this inactivity of not going to school. The fact that the children are able to go to school, that number of hours they spend in school, it's enough security to guarantee parents that my child is safe, than the ones that the children are moving on the street, moving on the market, in a war, in a conflict environment. So at the end of the day, I think that we should do more than just asking the schools should resume back in the northwest and in the southwest. We must find other strategies on how we can improve our youths, these children, which made about 60% of the population in those two regions. So we should put them as our priority, and there would have been no point or no aspect or reason why these children in the first place should have been used as a bait for the separatist fighters to achieve some of their goals. The children should not have been, as a matter of fact, one of the main reasons why we are, for whatever conflict is happening down there, these children should have been the one to pay the price. And they have paid so much dear price. The children have suffered. Like even the apostles said, some of them do not even know how they would go back to school, because we don't even know at what level you have to evaluate them to begin back. It's not like we are seeing the one academic year that we almost lost due to the coronavirus, but at least those that lost 1 year will be promoted to the next class. But we are talking here of 4 years. How do you skip a child from Form 1 and shoot the child up in Form 5? That becomes a very huge challenge for our youth down there. So I think that at the end of the day, we should be able to do more than just going back to school. We should find other means on how we can put a spirit, a sound mind, and encourage the children to go back to school, because a lot of them today, like we still say, are not even anymore in those two regions. Some of them have left the country, some are in Nigeria, some are internally displaced, some are living in the bushes, some don't even have homes anymore. So how do we do? So there's a lot here, not only on the side of the separatist fighter, but the government is supposed to also do a lot to see that the children are able to go back to school. The ones that are in the bushes, how do we get them back out of those bushes? How do we reconstruct back our schools? How do we reconstruct back homes where these children can come back and live? It's just like when we're talking about the budget that was spent for the Grand National Dialogue. If that budget was used in reconstructing
some of the homes that were being burned down, some of the private schools that were being destroyed, some of the infrastructures of private individuals were being reconstructed. It would have even created an enabling environment to say, okay, life can come back. Today we are talking of school, but how would the children go back to school? What are the population of youths we are talking that we knew before this crisis were already living there? Where are they today? So there's a lot that the government is supposed to do, and there's a lot that the separatist fighters are supposed to do to ensure the future of these children. Because
someone just sent this letter to me, or a message. It seems as if it has been circulating on social media already, supposedly coming from Tassan Wilfred, who is at Kondingi. He says that, my dear children, remember that if it were not for your sake and for your well-being, we would not have shut down the schools in 2016. Remember how much we put our lives on the line for you. Remember how many of your brothers and sisters have died for your sake. Remember how many villages have been burnt down to cause you to give up. Remember the thousands of your brothers and sisters living in the open in Nigeria. Remember that before November, listing a lot of sacrifices made to justify why schools must not open. Should children actually understand this?
Well, there is a reason, there is a certain degree of sense in what he's trying to present. But the issue is we have to weigh the pros and the cons to have a balance, because I don't judge things from one side of my faculty. I must be balanced on both sides. It's only an individual who reasons with one side of the brain that does not make a U-turn like the prodigal son. The prodigal son went on a long way into a mess. It wasn't too late. He said, I will go back to my father, because the other side of the brain began reasoning. From what Patasan has said, is somebody we respect as somebody who also has sacrificed for the southern Cameroonians, but I must be sincere to let him understand that if at all this sacrifice has to take 10 years, we're going to produce more prostitutes, we're going to produce more armed robbers, we're going to produce more illiterates, we're going to produce a lot of vandals in the society. Because why? The reason for vandalism in the society today is a result of no education. When people are not educated, when they are not given job opportunities, when their potentials and their skills are not being developed, they will be left with no choice. I was teaching on Sunday in the church. I said we should stop organizing peace conferences in Africa. Because why? Every time we organize peace conferences for the educated, we should start getting down to the youth. If anybody has a property to lose, he will never accept war. It's because of idleness and joblessness that we have a lot of war in Africa. If a young man has built a house, established a business, once the president gone to him, he'll be thinking of what he's going to lose in case war comes. So the reason why there's so much war in Africa, because a lot of idleness and idle minds are in operation. So Patasan, in response to what you have written, we appreciate, and we as Anglophones in this country and Cameroonians, we appreciate the fact that a lot of sacrifice have been put in place. But I want to ask, if at all the sacrifice is going to jeopardize the well-being of the future, what kind of sacrifice am I going to invest that will not come back to me? We know that Jesus Christ sacrificed his life to gain. Now, what is the gain? Because we seem to look like this thing is getting longer than expected. Secondly, I also want to say that the idea of children going back to school does not stop what they are demanding for. It couldn't be the only way, or it should not be the only way through which they intend to achieve their goal. Because it is like taking a bullet that's supposed to be meant for your enemy and you're shooting yourself. I must clarify this, that even if children do not go to school in the English-speaking region, there are complete full-blown Anglo-Saxon schools in the French-speaking region. A child can still migrate from there and still get the choice of education that he could not get in the Anglophone region. So don't think that by cutting schools in the Anglophone region, you automatically will stop people from going to school. People have moved over here. There are secondary schools and primary schools that teach nothing in French. They are completely English. So education is continuing for others, while others are suffering the casualty. Our problem is a law that is established by the leader should be equitable. It should be able to reach out almost everybody. But it looks like this law is hammering just a few persons who are not financially able and qualified or standardized to handle the crisis on ground. So look at the law critically. Schools are being boycotted. People have flown their children to America, others have flown their children to Nigeria, they are schooling there. Some have flown their children to the French-speaking region. We are trying to boycott them from learning French or learning Francophone system. But the crisis has instead pushed them more to learn the Francophone culture and to become more Francophonized than being Anglophone. How can we be using a weapon that is killing us in return? It's like somebody holding a gun and the trigger is facing by him. In his mind, he's shooting the enemy, not knowing that if he press the trigger, his in will go down.
Now, let's look at the boycott itself. This boycott was called, I'm sure, because of the English subsystem of education.
Yes.
Yeah, but we have the teachers who are back in class. I don't know who is holding the boycott now. Has it a move? Because if the teachers were angry at the way things were being done at the level of the English subsystem of education, they are back to school. Why would I don't know? Why would everybody still be hanging on education when we know that the call, because even Tassanwig from who is writing, he's a teacher, but the colleagues are back to class. Was he not supposed to rather address this letter to the colleagues who are already in class?
I think because if you are looking who here really is a victim and who has made the sacrifices, the people who have paid the sacrifices are not the people in Kondenge, are the children or the youths who are the future of tomorrow. They are the one paying the prices of this war. Why? Because we are not being able to develop our human resources, which we capitalize on our youths. And that is why every leader, like I still say, a vision of a leader must be attached with his will, which ensures his followers what benefits will come for that struggle. But you cannot hold a revolution whereby it leaves your children in poverty, uneducated. They don't have possibility to see the four rooms of a school. They are not able to express themselves. The question here is, where do we have these children in 10 years to come? That is where the question is. Because if you look at a person like the man who wrote the letter in the prison, in 10 years today probably and he will already be in his retirement. I don't know how old he is, but these children are the ones that will still be there. So at the end of the day, I would say that it is the letter may have had some good intention, but looking at it, it's not any indication that any man who makes an investment is sure to get profit from that investment. No, they are investment you do that ensures you a profit or a better tomorrow. And there are those that you do that will have repercussion on yourself and your family. And this is exactly what we have seen down there. So the school boycott is not the teachers that are holding the school boycotts. It is us, like we said, that we use the boycott in order to draw a certain consensus with the and whatever ambition we had to secede from Cameroon and to build an independent state. So that school boycott and many other things we saw with the CDC, PAMOL, and any other thing, that was also part of the whole plan. But at the end of the day, that decision was not a good one, because we are supposed to concentrate on our human resources, because we know that these are the ones that are going to benefit from whatever struggle that the Anglophone or the separatist fighters have against the French government. Like he rightly also said, you are talking of the French region. They are bilingual schools here. There are children that go to school here in the French area who don't school in English, who don't school in French, they school in English. So at the end of the day, whose economy are you empowering? The economy of those two regions has collapsed entirely. Whose economy is booming is the economy of this side, because a lot of investors, a lot of entrepreneurs who had businesses there have moved their businesses over here and created more employment. A lot of people who are not been able to go to school are here and they are doing jobs, and at the end of the day, they are building up a society this way. So that wasn't a good decision. So the school boycott, I think that Mr. Liu, like I'll still say at the end of the day, the separatist fighters should do more than just the children going back to school. That environment, like I was saying the last time, that we should look at the factors that are able to cause the guns to move left and right. These are some of the policies that you make. You say children should not go to school. So when they go to school, it provokes the guns to come out. So when these children are able to go to school, you realize that it's going to reduce the number of
people carrying up arms and violence in those two regions, because we know that we have an interest here to protect the children are going to school. So we need to keep an environment which is safe for these children. So this is not a sacrifice that has come from the leaders. I think that the leaders are using the youth to pay that price to keep them up there, because at the end of the day, it is the children who have not been going to school for 4 years, not the leaders. The leaders have their own children schooling elsewhere, and these are the children of poor parents, and those that are able to take care of their own family don't have their children living in those regions.
Okay, many persons who are watching have questions for both of you. We are hoping, Eli, if it's possible, can we try to reconnect to Germany with Badia Sanga? Just try. We may be lucky this time around. But some persons have asked questions, and I don't know whether you attempt or Apostle, you may have answers to them. But meanwhile, good evening to you, Douala, who is watching us from the United States of America, and to you, Grandfrère Ben Bolinji, who is equally writing from the United States of America. We're glad to know that you guys are following up our discussion. Someone expressed concerns, asking whether I was not feeling too well today. No, I'm fine, please. I'm doing just good. We are going to continue. Some questions were asked. I want to get to them. Tabi Eric Santry, good evening to you, and to you. Dembong Ernest, I'm doing fine. Kmer Meswe, good evening to you. Ephraim Te, good evening to all of you. But some of the questions that have been asked has to do with security. Apostle, and many persons are raising security concerns. How do you ensure that students effectively study with the bullet flying overhead?
Okay, let me try to answer that question in a very simple and clear form. I will take reference to the case of South Africa during the apartheid. It lasted for 27 years, with Mandela being more than 27 years, but Mandela lasted 27 years in prison. Now imagine Mandela in that prison state asked for school boycott. You will imagine the mental capacity of South Africans within 27 years. The years that our leaders are in prison, or the separatist leaders are in prison, is unpredictable. We don't know how many years it will last there. Now, if they keep on maintaining school boycott for the next 20 to 25 years, let us look about the mental capacity of children of southern Cameroons. That's the first thing. Secondly, the security issue is this. It wasn't the military that asked for school boycott. As a matter of fact, the threat for children in campuses is not coming from the military. It was the southern Cameroonians who voluntarily boycotted school as a means to attract international attention. Number two, they brought 12 points from the teacher's point to see how the government will regulate the standard of education, the subsystem of the English education, and those two factors were given attention, even though all the factors have not been given proper attention to. That's it. Now, the fear of going to school has nothing to do with the military. It has everything to do with the separatists. The people who intend that school should not hold are the ones that may come through a school campus are threatened. I'll clarify. There are regions or there are particular towns in the southwest like Limbe that are visited during school periods where the activities of separatists is not much there. School is running smoothly. You go to Kamer, you go where separatist activities is not much there. School is running quickly, smoothly. Go to Boya, the same thing. Why? All those places are occupied by the military, but there's no tension when it has to do with school. We have to be sincere to ourselves. I have sat on this platform and I've spoken against the idea of children going back to school. But listen to me, when things progress every day in life and you are not able to have a retrospect and reflection on how things go, you will not be able to make decisions. Let us not hold on to things because we want to win. You argue because you want to learn something, not because you want to win. If we put this argument on any table tomorrow, I must be sincere to let you understand that the security issue of the Northwest and the Southwest is totally dependent in the hands of the separatists. If the separatists threaten no one from going to school, there will be no school boycotts. I'm very sincere. If they decide that nobody will be intimidated going to school, the military will never remove anybody from class and intimidate them. So the idea of children going to school is the fear that you may go to school and you're coming back, they may shoot you, and not military will shoot you.
Okay.
It's not military that will shoot you from not going to school. The military must have done their own atrocities in other activities, but this issue, particularly concerning school, has to do with the separatists. They are the ones that can threaten you that don't go to school, because why? They see school boycott as a means to attract international pity, international attention, as well also as a means to cross the government or press the government to respond to their demands. So if you look, the whole concept of school boycott, it had nothing to do with the government or the international community. So we have the capacity to cause schools to go back. Anglophones have that capacity. If they say schools, the only thing they have to do is that those who are leading the separatist group in the different factions in the southern Cameroon, if they say, please don't disturb school boycott, it ends at ABC. So the threat of going to school has nothing to do with the military. Not saying this because I want to defend the activity of the military. The military have done also their own atrocities by killing people. But listen to me, if at all schools have to resume in the southern Cameroons, it falls back on practically every southern Cameroonian. If we unanimously agree that schools will resume, schools will resume.
Okay. Now, how important is it for some of the activists themselves to engage in calling for back to school? Does it change anything?
Well, I think that's a good indicator. That's a good indication right there. I think that we are heading somewhere, because if this is almost like a dream coming true, because this is what we have been crying for ever since this crisis began. You see, like, I still give the statistics on what lies the future of the Anglophone region. It's something that I really expect the leaders or the separatist fighters to really put into great consideration. The youths there, I still say, that makes 60%, and you are talking of the population there of 5 million. The population of those two regions are about 5 million, which 60% is the youths. And 60 million of these youths we are talking of in Cameroon were not even born when some of these leaders took power today. So at the end of the day, it is not wise at all if we had taken these youths and put in front to pay a price. How many youths have died in this war? It's been only youths. We have thousands of youths that have died. How many leaders have died in this war? Almost zero. You just can count them with your hands. But how many youths? In their thousands. So at the end of the day, who are we mortgaging? The people that we say we are fighting for. Why do we mortgage them to support that price? That becomes a question. So for me, I think that, like I have always been saying, Mr. Leo, we should be able to make decisions at the end of the day that upholds the rights of every human being. When we talk about human rights violation, this is what we have done to our own children. This is what we have done to the children and the youth of the Northwest and the Southwest. We have violated their rights. And yet we are expecting the UN and other foreign organizations to come to our rescue when we are still perpetrating the same things that we complain about. So what I am saying here, Mr. Leo, is that the separatist fighters are able, they are supposed to go more than what they have done right now and create that enabling environment whereby these children's priority and the children's rights are put first in place. Why they begin to still go behind and begin to place their demands or begin to hustle or tussle with the government. So this is my position. I'm saying that we stand today looking at the future of tomorrow. I don't see a bright one, because we have destroyed and devastated the future of these youths, that we are not able to assemble them. Now we talk about school resumption. How do we bring back the youths that have fled out? How do we bring back those that have died? How do we bring back those that are living in the bushes? But here we're only talking about school resumption, only for those that are capable or are able or viable to go back to school. What about those that are unable due to the hardship, the economic devastation in those two regions? How do they get back to school? How do parents bring them back to school knowing that the economy is zero, with all the kind of severe and diabolic ghost towns that you used to have there that collapse the whole entire economy, where people end at the level of just looking for what to eat? Dreams are all dead, visions are all dead. So at the end of the day, you come to realize that we are not sowing a right seed. We are making decisions that are going to affect
the future of our children tomorrow. So when our children are going to suffer in 10 years and 20 years to come, they will remember that these decisions were taken by their own fathers and by their own leaders. So at the end of the day, I will not say that these leaders have sacrificed for their people, because it is their people who are paying those prices instead of the leaders paying the prices for their people. Every good shepherd will die for his sheep and will fight for his sheep. Any shepherd that allows the sheep to fight, it means that that sheep has been destined to support and to give his life to keep that shepherd up there. So it is not in the place for a young man to die for an old man. It is a place for an old man to die for a young man. So Mr. Leo, the decisions of these separatist fighters down there ought to change for the betterment of his people. That's my position. That is the way I look at it.
That is how you look at it. Are we very sure that this is Mr. Tessan Wilfred who sent out that communicate? Thanks for the program. Michael Viga from Bamenda, that is why I say supposed. We are going to confirm whether he did or not. Good evening. Good evening to all in the studio. Bangalore from Bamenda says, all of us love that our children should go back to school, but what of the crossfire between military and Amber boys? I see that more people are to go to be dying if school resumes when ceasefire is not done yet. So we rather ask Paul call for ceasefire. I'm sure you answered that already. Apostle Ambe answered that. It one says, your example of Limbe is wrong just because there is no sporadic fighting erupted. Amber and fighting, would you an adult dare go outside? What about the curriculum? It is a colonial one whereby we stay back and studying parts of an insect. Chinese kids are making robots, engineers here and there. I won't allow schools to resume because I, for one, my daughter whom a bullet missed in PCSS is still scared today. Okay, certainly you have to answer to that. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Schools reopening is very welcome, but I think the military should be withdrawn from the field as well in order not to provoke a situation that will endanger the situation. The Amber leaders called for school boycott, but the military has taken serious advantage over the situation to intimidate. Padia Sanga is struggling to get to us. Can you try, Eli, can you try getting to Padia Sanga if it's on so that we can get him? This one says, we are preparing for back to school on Monday and the GCE results are not yet out. The results are going to be out tomorrow. They're out already. Good evening, Leo. I'm Sami from Boya. I love the point Apostle Ambe is raising. He should keep up. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I enjoy your program. God bless the panel. Ma Pauline, writing from Tombel. Good evening, Mr. Leo, to you all. The program is an interesting one. Thank you for the good work you guys are doing. More grace. The decision of the separatist leaders accepting the resumption of school is a good decision. We are happy for that. It's 4 years today, not 4 weeks or 4 months. Some of the Anglophones have lost a lot without school. We are nothing. Bertrand is writing from Kumba. Please, I just want to argue a postal. What is the will of God concerning Apostle? This issue we are fighting today over Northwest and Southwest. What is the will of God concerning this issue? This is not Churchill. Good evening to everyone in the studio. I'm very happy for the analysis of school resumption. Please, I am called Ramsey. I wish to advise our brothers to allow their children to go back to school. Remember, education is the most powerful tool that we can use to achieve our dreams. Like my brother said, if we don't allow our kids to go back to school, there will be so many prostitutes. Okay, now let's look at the school boycott issue. Is there effective school boycott if every parent in the Southwest and Northwest had the means to send their children to schools in the French-speaking parts of Cameroon?
There won't be any effective school boycott if all the parents had the means to send their children either out of the country or the French-speaking section of the country. Why? At the end of the day, we are the ones grounding our own economy. I know of many proprietors who established schools in the Southwest. I know of people who open businesses and companies in the Southwest and Northwest. Now, because of the crisis, they have moved over here. The tax they were supposed to be paying in Limbe, paying in Bamenda, they are paying those taxes here. The structures that were supposed to be erected in this environment, in the Southwest and Northwest, they are being erected in this French-speaking section of the country. Now, if we put one on one and put on a scale, you will discover that we are the ones losing from every angle. We are the ones losing. There is this notion that we say Southwest and Northwest is too rich and the other part of the country cannot do without Northwest and Southwest. Please, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso do not have the resources that this other side of the country has, but they are nations. I think if God has blessed us in Northwest and Southwest, we shall appreciate it, but we are not indispensable. We must be able to understand that everything we are doing, we are burning ourselves. I gave a proverb here: a child that constantly bites the mother's nipple may think he's hurting the mother, doesn't know that he's depriving himself from food. Because if that breast is wounded, the child will stop eating. We are the one biting our own mother's nipple, expecting that our mother will feel the pain. Listen, there's boycott of schools in this. Now I want to ask this question: Northwest and Southwest, equally lawyers took up some very important points. All the lawyers have gone back to court. They are making their money. Why should children who neither asked for school boycott, why should children who were not marching that day be the sacrificial lamb for the interest of some people who have already gone to their school, obtained their certificates? If at all we are establishing a law to defend the interests of every Southern Cameroonian, then I think almost everybody in Southern Cameroon must be affected by that law. But when a law handpicks a few persons and keep them in total frustration, it means the law is not fair and is not equitable. For instance, I mentioned in the last program, anybody who has his money does not feel the pinch of the crisis. It's like somebody sitting in an air-conditioned car during dry season. It doesn't take note if there's dry season because the weather condition in his car does not match with that which is outside. I think we should be able to reason very well that many people have their finances. This crisis means nothing to them. Some of them have come this way, built houses which were supposed to be built in Southwest. They have come here, built schools, open companies, and send their children to school. The money is going to this region. The finances go to this region. The structures are going to this region, as well as the rents we're supposed to be giving to our own landlords in the respective regions. They are going to this region. Most have come and established their businesses here. The taxes are going to this region, and all the workers and the payment of expenses of workers are going to the region. Rents have increased in this region of the country because there is an influx of people in this area of the country. One room has to be 10,000, now they will tell you 35,000. And you look at the situation right now, instead of us trying to build back where we call our own, we have abandoned it and it is going down. Now they say there's a committee for national reconstruction. I don't think we're supposed to be asking for reconstruction. We're supposed to be increasing construction. Reconstruction means is a prefix. It means we are going back to where we used to be. It means if the crisis came, it has given us a retrogression for 20 years in education, 20 years in economics, 20 years in social reforms, 20 years in infrastructure, backward, not forward. So we are going to repeat what we already did some years back. I beg my brothers and sisters of the English-speaking region of this country, it is very important for us also to sit and think again that the destiny of our children, when a child leaves school, there is this zeal, there's an enthusiasm to go to school. When a child stays at home for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, that zeal automatically dies. We don't know how many children will even accept at the age of 16 years to go and enter Form 1 again. We don't know how many will even accept at the age of 18 years. Some who were supposed to go to university, they have been kicked out of university. Now, I want to ask a sincere question to all of us Anglophones and Southern Cameroonians. I want to ask a simple question. That the law of boycotting of school, how many of the Southern Cameroonians have been caught up by this law? We have francophonized our children more than even anglophonizing them, if I'm permitted to use that grammar. So I think when we fight at a certain level, sit down and think. It was General de Gaulle who fought at a certain level and he said to himself, we have to retreat. Retreat means you refire, you retire to refire. When we retreat, we have to rethink the strategies in the battle. This battle is going towards a direction whereby we are the ones gradually losing every single day of the week.
Okay.
Every single day.
I don't know whether Paddy Asanga is on the line already. Good evening, Paddy, and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening to your panel, and I want to say good evening to Apostle Ambe. And I also want to congratulate Apostle Ambe for what you are doing. Apostle Ambe, if I was a Christian, I would have been your follower because you sound like a real man of God. I must say that because you have the interests of our people at stake. Mr. Leo, I want to add my voice to that of yours to say that those of us who sit here in the diaspora and run their basket mouth like me, we have gotten exactly the opposite of what we wanted. That is to say, an Anglophone identity. We have united Cameroon without knowing what we have been doing for the past 4 years. I saw pictures from all the travel agencies and what was happening at the travel agencies. We saw Anglophone Cameroonians sitting on their backs, sitting on their luggages like people going on pilgrimage, like an exodus from the northwest region, moving either to the southwest region or moving to the francophone regions. And that thing struck my mind. People say children should not go back to school. Mr. Leo, my children are going to school. They have never boycotted in solidarity. Our francophone brothers even tried to stage a boycott, a march of solidarity with the Anglophone Cameroonians. But do you know what happened? People like Maurice Kamto and the others, they said no. The politics was not on the streets. Just to discover that today they have to go to the streets because they want power. I'm so happy that that one Cameroon that we were wishing for is happening without us having a direct impact, without us firing a bullet, and without Francophones attacking or forcing Anglophone to be. We Anglophones are architects of our own destruction, and I want to believe that everybody, every sound Cameroonians should send an appeal that children should go back to school. Mr. Leo, this going to school, back to school campaign has been a bargaining chip for most of those hypocrites who are sitting here, like Eric Tato, who said children should not go to school, and any child that goes to school, his limbs and fingers will be chopped off. But they are using that as their bargaining chips today because they know that the cards are crumbling. They are reading the signs, and they are reading the signs on the wall that Ambazonia is a farce. You cannot sit here in the diaspora like me with my basket mouth and be telling other people's children or giving injunctions to people on what to do. No. Mancho BBC, Penterence, Ngalim Felix, the Abakwa boys of the Coffin Revolution have been calling for years that people should go back to school. Their fight was against the institutions, was against marginalization. They wanted reform, but they did not want to take people's children hostage for political gain, Mr. Liu. And you want to understand today that it
Mainly, we have a network issue there with Paddy Asanga. We're going to be reconnecting with Paddy Asanga. Anytime the lines are fixed, please let me know. Eli, let me know when he's reconnected so that he continues and then gets to the end of his reflection. But at Temibako, the two regions have recorded enormous economic losses as we speak, going by the analysis that were presented by Apostle Ambe. One of the core industries that brought in income into the southwest and northwest regions was education.
Yes. I think I'm surprised that the people,
I think that was our highest
yeah.
yeah. Mm.
So you see, these are some of the things that I used to always say that what you dream for, you should always be very careful, because you might get out from that dream and it becomes a nightmare. Because you talk about marginalization, assimilation, and all of that. Today, we are having more Francophones in the English regions than the Anglophones that used to be there due to this crisis. And I said that in the beginning, that if care is not taken and these boys don't make certain decisions that are able to give some level of protection to the people who are living down there, whereby they can carry on their campaign, but yet these people are not being disturbed with what is happening there. Today, we have almost every part of the Northwest and the Southwest being militarized. And after the regional council is only going to worsen. That at the end of the day, the Anglophones living in those regions will not be able to feel as if they are living anymore in there. They'll feel as if they are living in a strange place. Go to Boya. You find places like army barracks. You move from my 17 before you want to reach this other place again, another barrack. So it seems as if the people are living in a foreign land. But they created that situation themselves because they did not have a foresight to what they are doing. You see, in any time where you use the lives and the blood of your own children to support the prizes for those that are above, you receive a curse. There was no need to have implicated these children in this conflict. No need. Because at the end of the day, not only have we seen no parent will allow, who has means, will allow his child to be there or the children to be there. They will fly them either out. I know of many people, whether it's from Achani to Sanfon, who are there in the southwest, they have all moved out. Achani is investing here in Douala. Sanfon is investing in this. And these are major people who contributed in the economy of those areas. I don't know about the Northwest, but I'm giving you a very clear example of the Southwest. I have the Epokes family who are also investing this way. So at the end of the day, where does it leave us 20 years to come, knowing that we are already suffering 20 years behind of undevelopment? That is where we are looking at. So we are talking today about going back to school, Mr. Leo. My concern here is, how do those that have been afflicted, or those that have been affected, or those that this war have been designed to destroy, how do we reintegrate them back into the system? Because now we are talking about school resumption. How do we support them going back to school? Because not every person has that means to send a child back to school, even if you call back for school resumption. Not every parent. So what is the role here of the government? And what is the role of those who sat in the diaspora and began talking about a school boycott? Are they going now to support the children or the parents who are unable to send these children back to school? The answer here is no. So you don't just sit down and make a decision and then it destroys an entire community, and one day you stand up again and you say, let them go back to school. Let who go back to school? Which school to start with? These are some of the questions that we should be more practical. That at the end of the day, if there's going to be a school resumption in the Northwest and the Southwest, the government has to step in, knowing that, okay, there's a lead way here the separatist fighters are giving for children to have the opportunity to go back to school. I need to see the government going down to support these families, because the government has wasted a lot of resources on wrong decisions that are going to bring about the solution in the Northwest and in the Southwest. It was a lot of billions, about 89 billion that was spent for the Grand National Dialogue, which ended up in nothing. Today we are marking a 1 year of that Grand National Dialogue. So at the end of the day, Mr. Leo, I think this is a very good indication whereby we are seeing signs of progress and peace returning back to the Northwest and the Southwest. If you go to before Miami, there's a village called Talangai. There was an American company that came with an investment of about 200 billion, where it created employment. People were coming from all over the world, going there looking for job. Huge opportunity. But that company today has been crumbled. Now it is the separatist fighters that are harvesting the oil that they were coming to do that. So at the end of the day, you come to realize that even the things that assures a future for your people have all been gone. Okay. And now we are calling.
Yeah, but I wanted us to look at the economic losses. You started highlighting them already, to say that there is a very, very great economic impact as far as these two regions are concerned?
Yes, Mr. Liu. You know, Southwest, first and foremost, has a very rich soil based on the mountainous area through the erosion, bringing alluvial fans down the slope, causing the environment to be very good for plantation agriculture.
I want us to look at economic...
That's where I'm going.
From the education perspective, because we're talking back to school.
Yes, back to school.
Yes.
Now, you realize that if we are sincere, we as Anglophones, Bamenda used to be considered as a hub of education in Cameroon. It's like when you fail GCE and you want to pass, you go to the Northwest. The best teachers, the best writers, the best environment, and the best results of GCE used to come from the Northwest and the Southwest. And you take note that schools, people were trooping. I can tell you that people were migrating from this region to go to school that way more than coming this way. That's the simple truth. But now it is the vice versa. Now, if finances were living there, children were going to school like Bishop Rogan, Sase College, PCSS, PHS, and the rest, PGSS, people migrated from this. Even big Anglophone authorities in Yaoundé thought it necessary to send their children to Sacred Heart, Our Lady of Lords. This was prestigious name, St. Joseph Sase, which means the schools were a very strong institution to draw economic, financial stability from all corners of the country. Big authorities like prime ministers, directors, governors, and even some ministers, their children were sent back to those prestigious schools we knew in the English-speaking region, like Our Lady of Lords, Sacred Heart Mancon, St. Joseph's College, as I said, Bishop Rogan College. That was a means through which finances came. With the cutting down or boycotting of schools, it was the reverse. Children began migrating and coming by this way to come and find where to go to school here. The finances they were paying for school was transferred instead to this region of the country. That's the economic impact. Secondly, very beautiful and good campuses have been abandoned. The infrastructures have crumbled and have become dilapidated, which means enough money is needed to refurbish those buildings. That's another casualty. The third damage that schools boycott has caused the English-speaking region of the country is that our teachers who had the opportunity not just to teach in one school, they will teach in several schools and even organize classes. As a matter of fact, people saw Southwest and Northwest teachers as the pathway to GCE. They will rush for extra classes. Those teachers are somewhere in Douala, roving up and down, struggling to perch themselves in schools they are not even able to find. You get back again to other things like, okay, the creation of infrastructural development. People were expanding their schools, primary and secondary. Because of the situation, they had to move over to this region to buy lands, very expensive, and they are constructing those schools in this region of the country. So you look at almost everything that school brought in the English-speaking region, both in terms of mental and economic capacity, has been crumbled as a result of this school boycott. Now, if we are draining the economy and the minds of a particular group of people, what future does that particular region of the country have? Because the economic stability is not there. The financial stability is not there. And also the mental capacity is being drained. That renders the economy as a desert in another form. Go to a place like Ekona. You will practically see nobody there. Why? Because children have all escaped either to the bush. Those who have their means have collected their children to different regions of the country. They are gradually going them to school peacefully and quietly. Why the others who have no means are the ones suffering the casualties of the decisions we have made.
Padi Asanga, if you are there, how do we understand that children are the ones to pay for this political objective that we seek to achieve?
Yes, Mr. Leo, I still want to congratulate you and your panel for what you guys have been doing. I cannot stop congratulating you people because my heart bleeds when I sit here and understand that our children will be used as political guinea pigs. You know, I have my friends out here who say that we are going through a colonial education or slavery education or something like that. But these are people who left the Northwest and Southwest region only with their GCE advanced level, got to Yaoundé, got visas and flew out here, and they call themselves doctors and whatsoever. Because people are so greedy and they want a generation to be wiped out, so that me, Paddy, and my friends like Ayabacho, Tapang Ivo, Kapo Daniel, will come back and replace and make our children the elites of Anglophone Cameroon. We sit here and say all sorts of things. This is how gullible we have become, because we want to make political gains. But you know, nature is very, very just. It is not, some people call it divine justice. If divine justice is the justice of Quifon, then it is true, because the boomerang effect has kicked in. For 3 or 4 years today, we have sat here, people like myself. I was one of those people who thought that schools should not resume until certain considerations should be made. And when those considerations were not made, scavengers, political scammers, political parachuters, political hijackers, they came in and said they were going to use school. They started by telling you that they will burn schools. If any child that goes to school, they will bury him. And we saw people's children had their limbs and fingers cut off. Those same people today have realized that the Rwanda model would never work for Cameroon, and they have gone 360 and they are saying something else. I'm very, very happy to know that school shall resume in the Northwest and Southwest region, and all these people who sit here and made their calculations by keeping children back at home, using our children as their political capital, will have to face the slow but very hard arm of law. Because you don't use people's children, you don't use the future of a nation for political calculations. So it is not going to happen, and we are happy today that they are weighing in, calling for schools to resume, even though some people are still sitting in prison and saying that if they are not released, schools would not resume. I just read a letter coming from Patasang. You know, he writes very long, but anytime soon, I'll come back and tell you, and I want to believe that he is not part of that cabal in Koningi who think that their own future is more important than those of the children who are on our streets. What has happened for the past years has united Cameroon more than divided Cameroon, because all the refugees, we have more internal space in French Cameroon than we have it in all the diaspora combined. What does that tell you? What does that tell you about the call for kill Francophones, burn their houses, confiscate their properties? What does that tell you? You people are in Douala Leo. I think you people can best, you, Apostle Ambe and Mukoge, can answer and can best answer that question than somebody who's sitting here like me. But I want to tell you that if anybody sits here in the diaspora and is saying that school should not resume, know that that person is as wicked and black-hearted like Mr. Bia, Kamto, and Ayapol Abine. Thank you.
But you are so confident that schools are going to resume. We have not everybody is endorsing the back to school, because persons like Ayabacho Lucas has said that schools were not going to resume, and I'm sure some other separatist leaders have said same.
Yes, but who is Ayabacho? Ayabacho is a criminal. He is the person who killed Florida. He's the person who is responsible for kidnapping for ransom. Ayabacho has no choice than to think that he can maintain that radical stand, and then people will come and call him and negotiate with him. Remember that his followers are saying that they should bomb schools, they should burn schools, they should make Northwest and Southwest region hot, so that they can call them for negotiations, and they will negotiate their way to a political position. The problem in Cameroon is a political situation. There is nothing like a war of separation or whatsoever. It's a political crisis where some political scavengers have come in now, used the fact that our people had a problem, and recruited all the hardened criminals like Mad Dog, as he called himself, who is no more alive today, to gain to hammer on their position. If you go to Bamenda today, you don't see those park boys who were loading cars. You don't see those who were washing cars. You don't see those boys who were hanging around the nightclubs when you come and say, "Grand, something no day for me." All of them have become amber because they make more money from that business, and those are the people that Ayabacho has recruited, and it is not me who is talking. They are his surrogates, they are his followers who are saying that, like Capo Daniel, Tapang Ivo, Benedictwa, and all the rest. I don't support anybody who is sitting here in the diaspora, but I have to say the truth, because Ayabacho knows that he too has committed certain crimes, and he can only use children. And as they told you people that if schools start going on, what they should do is that they should go and plant bomb in schools, and then the United Nations or the international community will react. That's a very sensitive topic, and that's why Ayabacho is hanging on that, because he knows that he has committed a lot of crime against humanity, and he will never work as a free man. Thank you, Mr. Leo.
Okay. But how wise was it to use the school boycott as a political chip for our children? And can we weigh our asserting that destinies have been destroyed already, because there are many persons who definitely are not going to continue schools? There are those who are now working in garages, in saloons, and a host of others.
The education in those two regions has become a victim of war. And 80% of schools in those two regions have been closed. 70% has been destroyed. 600,000 children have been affected by this school boycott. And these are the numbers of those whose parents are unable to take them out of those regions. So the school boycott, I think that it is just where a man faces another opponent and sees that his opponent is stronger than him and turns his anger on the one that is weaker. That is the way I see the school boycott, because there is no way on earth whereby people are having political issues and they take their shield to prevent bullets from hitting them, and they use their children to act as that shield. To the extent where I saw people demanding that if children should go to school, they should cut their hands. These are not human beings. There's no way you tell me that this idea of school boycott was a legitimate one or had a good intention. This only had people's personal interest. Like he actually rightly said, we are seeing a more unified Cameroon today than ever before. And this is what I forewarned them, that a time will come whereby the government will use all of these strategies to their advantage, because now they are penetrating. As the people began fleeing out, going out of those two regions, it permits the state to go in and establish. So at the end of the day, they have destabilized those two regions, whereby they have given an upper hand for the French Cameroon to go there and create and militarize all those two regions, whereby at the end of the day, you will not have anybody saying, "I am an Ambazonia," because you have military swarming everywhere, because they have created that advantage. They have created that situation that way. So the school boycott, I used to remember parents, ministers in Equatorial Guinea and different parts of Africa were sending their children to Cameroon in those two regions to go to school. Where landlords who had houses gave houses out for 120,000 pounds for 1 month for children living in Equatorial Guinea, and their parents had money to pay. All of that has gone down the drain. All those other investors that plow or use the education in those two regions as the major center for investment, they have all fled. At the end of the day, Mr. Leo, where are we going to?
Yeah, is that not part of the war? Because it falls in line with the objectives of bleeding the economy.
Well, I think that this method in which we have been fighting this war is an arcade a version that is not being used in modern times. I have seen economic wars where you carry certain economic sanctions on your opponent, and he feels it more than you carrying a gun, because at the end of the day, The guns that we have carried are only ended up killing our own people. More than the people we claim to be fighting. As a matter of fact, we are not fighting the French Cameroon. We are fighting but our own Anglophone brothers. And this has been the problem with us, whereby, Mr. Leo, let me just say this. It doesn't add up here, whereby you complain that we are using the French education system in our schools. You claim that France is the one destabilizing our system. You want to break away from all of that. You know that we are using the French CFA. You know that we pay colonial tax to France. At the end of the day, tell me one white man ever since this war has begun that any of these boys in the Northwest and Southwest have killed. But yet they have killed their own people. For what reason? So this is, for me, the school boycott, Mr. Leo.
They're killed because they are black legs.
That is what I'm trying to say, that we have started a war not to fight an enemy that we claim to fight.
No, but
you cannot shoot a gun and the gun comes back to you.
Many persons who are writing says that a war also goes with a lot of sacrifice. Can we justify the sacrifice of education for the war?
It is true that every war goes with sacrifice.
Yes, but what is unique with school when drivers are walking? Almost everybody is going about their normal activity.
Like I said earlier, the prodigal son went into a deep shit and then sat down, reasoning himself out. If I had gotten the knowledge I have now earlier, I would have stood against school boycott. 3 lies they told us about the importance of school boycott. Number 1, rapid intervention of UNESCO. As blinded as we are in those days when they told us that when they boycott schools, UNESCO will not be able to take it. They will step down immediately and grant our independence. Sheepishly, we accepted that philosophy and waited till tomorrow. That was a lie properly established, which has to be debunked and brought to the consciousness of every southern Cameroonian that we were deceived to believe that United Nations, because there is nothing in the UN Charter I've gone to study. Number 2 lie they told us, Ghana boycotted school for 4 years and things changed in their country. Please, I must confess to you that it wasn't school boycott that changed Ghana. It was the leadership of John Jerry Rawlings that changed Ghana. That's one of the things that they lied to us. And when Ghana came out of the issue of the crisis, they gave free education, that it was obligatory for people to be arrested and sent to classes. Ghana stands out to be one of the most educated nations today in Africa. Number 3, I must confess to you that when the civil war occurred or the genocide took place in Rwanda, those who died and those who were not able to go to school because they escaped to other places, when peace came, the illiterates were not employed. They were not employed. So all these children who are being deprived from going to school, if these guys still become leader tomorrow as we are envisaging and become presidents of the independent Amazonian Republic, all those children who did not go to school will never be considered into leadership. They will never. They will never consider them into leadership, because why? They force them to be used as a sacrifice to achieve their goal, and then tomorrow they may not them because they don't have the mental capacity. So someone uses you to climb to the throne as a horse and then neglect you at the roadside, just like Guillaume Soro, who took Ivorians into the streets of many years ago. When the time came for him to be appointed prime minister, he left all those who followed him. Instead, another uprising again, they called, people followed him. When they appointed him president of National Assembly, he left them in the streets. All these guys are already learned. If they become presidents tomorrow and vice presidents, they will never take you, a first school holder who was used as a sacrifice, to be appointed as a minister. I'm saying this thing with passion. You know, I give my facts with passion. And I'm telling you that all those who believe that tomorrow, if there is an independent Amazonian Republic, and those guys who told you to sacrifice and that we should hold on, those guys will never consider you. In the academic world, class structure is the standard. Those doctors you are hearing tomorrow, somebody allowed them go to school to become doctors. And if a doctor becomes a president tomorrow, he will never appoint you first school holder as minister.
Okay. Lots of messages. This one says the main objective of separatist fighters was economic sabotage. The maker is writing from mile 16. Good evening to you, the maker. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm Adeline from Mutengene, and I really love your program tonight. First of all, I see you, Dr. Apostle Ambe, or should I say Pastor Valentine. If everyone have the same view as you, trust me, we, the Amazonian person, are going to attain our objective. without hindering the future of our children. Apostle Valentine, you are very realistic and educative. Trust me, I'm with you, because the best gift a parent can give a child after birth is education. Thanks. Okay, he's gotten this one. Says, good evening, sir. Everyone wants to go to school. The problem is insecurity. Sir, the problem is insecurity. Students are not safe from both parties. Please, we should look for a way forward, not blame some persons. I'm sure many persons have joined. Apostle Ambe talked about the issue of security. Certainly you are going to come back to it. This one says, why are some people love to play over others? Okay, good evening to all. Please, can someone help me answer this question? Are you saying that the war should stop for everything to become normal, or that school should resume while the war is going on? If your answer is the latter, tell me how this is possible. Monzi is writing from Limbe. Can we help answer Mondi?
That if at all?
Yeah, he says that, are you saying that everything should come back to normal, or how do people go to school in times of war?
We have many situations in different countries where schools have been going on.
Like in Palestine.
Afghanistan, Pakistan, South Africa during apartheid, schools were going on. Let me say this and say this. If we operate according to the Geneva Convention, there are certain positions in a nation that are not touched during war. Schools, hospitals, churches. Those three institutions are very vital institutions. Hospitals sustain human life. Churches bring God's intervention, while schools educate the next generation as others may be dying. And if at all we respect this international law not to trespass in these three sectors, we can still be agitating and pressing what we need for without touching the people in the school. Lastly, hundreds of youths have died in southern Cameroon. They did not die in a school campus. They didn't die wearing uniform. They did not die in a classroom. So boycotting school has not stopped the killing. We must change our approach and revise our strategy. There are better ways to catch a rat. For my few years on earth, I have seen many ways we used to catch a rat. Some use buckets, some use traps, some use indoseat, some use gum. Wherever we used to catch a rat, the rat has been caught. Let us re-strategize our approach to be placing demands on what we may need. That's the simple truth. Like the people who stirred up the crisis, teachers and lawyers, they are all back to school. Teachers are back in classes. Lawyers are back in courts. What is the place of a child in this war who was neither a teacher nor a lawyer that ignited the fire? The students were not part of the coffin revolution ignited by Manchu BBC. How can a child be used as a sacrifice to satisfy our interest? Lastly, the bicycle has nothing to do with the petrol station. Children are not part of this.
Okay, yes.
Yes, I also just wanted to add that we should look at, like I still use the same word, the factors that instigate the shooting of guns. It is because we said that the children should not go to school. It is not the government saying that the children should not go to school. It is different when two parties stand on one decision that affects a common people. But here is one party who is the party side deciding that his own children should not go to school. So if today he decides and said, let those children go to school, that means the gun will cease. That means they will not be shooting. As far as schools will be concerned, there will not be any threat around that environment. Why they are still pressing on with their demands? That is the simple truth. So here, the only reason why the children are not going to school is because we have seen when they tried going to school, we had gunshots, and they have to flee from those schools and go back home. Who is shooting the gun? It's not the military. It is us shooting the guns because we have said that our children should not go to school. So the question here is, who is the one preventing schools from not going on? It's not the government. It's not the children. The children are still even willing to take that risk with the guns passing on the air to still go to school, but only because their lives are being threatened by those who claim to be their leader. And that is where the problem is. So if we decide today that
okay, like the separatist fighters are now saying that school should resume, I think that is going to create an atmosphere of peace.
But not all the factions have endorsed that.
Well, it's still a good sign of indication that some level of sense and knowledge is dawning in them that really, if we continue this way, we are all going to be destroyed. Because at the end of the day here, Mr. Leo, I want to ask that should this revolution stand at the price of the death of all men in the Northwest and Southwest? Is that how it's supposed to be? Because today, we are the one dying. Today, we are the ones losing. The French is not losing. True that it has collapsed the economy. But the government has money. They don't have money. Private sectors don't have money. Families don't have money. The people in the Northwest and Southwest cannot support the hardship that is going on. So, who is it affecting? At the end of the day, that's what we are supposed to look.
Okay. Paddy Asanga, do you understand the security concerns raised by some persons?
Mr. Leo, let me tell you something. School boycotts is by design. I repeat, school boycotts is by design. That is a nursery for what you call Amber Boys. Amber Boys are mostly people who have not gone to school and they would not want to see other people go to school. So it is a perfect nursery to recruit further children who would join the ranks of what you call Amber Boys. And I want to take the case of Boss Koraman, Boss Acid, Mad Dog, Charger, how do you call them? The list is very, very long. When you look at all these things happening, and who recruited those boys who never went to school and don't see the need for children to go to school but to come out and pick a gun, they are people like Ayabacho. They are people like Chris Ano, celebrated scammers, scavengers, hijackers, fake pastors who never went to any institution that would be of moral authority to tell people what is supposed to be done. The sanctuary, the beacon of economy in the Northwest and Southwest region, or particularly the Northwest region, has been the school. St. Bede's College at Shinkom, you have Sacred Heart Mancon, you have CPC Bali, you have PSS Bafut, you have all the institutions, all the schools in the Northwest regions that has produced elites that people have graduated from and are celebrating today, sitting here in the diaspora. Let me tell you something, Leo, that people are not saying. Where are all the teachers who are not teaching in the Northwest and Southwest region? Some of them are receiving their salaries and teaching in private schools in the Francophone region. So there are people like teachers, there are some teachers also who would not want those schools to resume because it is for them a bread basket. This thing is a win-win for those who want the war to continue. If you hear anybody telling you that schools should not resume, know that they are benefiting from the situation one way or the other. If somebody here in the diaspora sits and tells you that, Leo, schools should not resume, know that he's going to tell people that, no, give us money, we are going to plan, we are going to create punkies, we are going to buy sticks, granules, and all sorts of nonsense that people sit here and do. So this thing has virtually become a business. So, Mr. Leo, let me make something clear to you. What is happening to our people who are internally displaced, who are refugees in Nigeria? Are they going to school or not? No. Some of them are struggling to go to school, and people have created Johnship schools in Nigeria, in Taraba State. They have transformed churches into schools, and they are asking these people fabulous sums of money. Like Pastor Ambe and Mukaba is saying, we are the Anglophones. We have retrograded, and if we were marginalized, then we have to know that we have gone at least 10 years, at least, let me be very fair, 10 years behind the growth of education and social cohesion, because there is a generation and there is a 5-year gap with the rest of the world. So you want to know that people like myself who sit here and say the things that I say, I have a political interest, but it's not because I have a political interest that I would not want to see your child, my child, the child of my brother, the child of my cousin, my neighbor not go to school. No, it is evil, it is wickedness, and it can only be compared to what the regime has done to the Anglophone community for the past years that we have been living in this union. So, Mr. Leo, you don't have to go far to find where the problem is. The problems of Anglophones today are Anglophones themselves. Those who call themselves leaders cannot agree even on a common goal on what to do. People who are coming today to say that schools should resume, they are the same people who said that children's fingers and limbs should be cut off if they go to school. They have realized themselves and they want to pave a way to gain amnesty, but they don't know how to do it.
Yeah, but what is wrong? What is wrong in that? Apostle Lambe used the example of a prodigal son who discovers and comes back.
Yes, there is nothing wrong in that, but what is preoccupying is the fact that you have to come in clear and apologize to the people that yes, I was a prodigal son, I made a mistake, and this time around I've realized myself 4 years is enough for me to be educated and know that I took a wrong decision. That is what is wrong in that decision. If you are coming back,
yeah,
if you are coming back on the wrong track, you should have that humility to tell the people that yes, I'm sorry. People have lost their limbs. City workers have lost their fingers, and some people have been killed. Our children are now uneducated. Most of them, those children who were 16 years old in 2016, they are 19 years old today. What is their job? What can they do? They can only carry guns and harass people.
Someone writes to me that I will not send my child to school because I am not comfortable with the system of education that is provided. I don't know whether it is based on the fact that a comparative study has been done with other systems of education across the globe. There is no English dictionary that is going to be created by Ambazonia. Mathematics is not going to be renewed by Ambazonia. Physics is not going to be rewritten by Ambazonia. Chemistry is not going to be rewritten by Ambazonia. Biology is not going to be rewritten by Ambazonia. It is a lie. It is a scam, Mr. Leo. We have to be very, very honest. And that person who is sitting there is a benefactor. It's somebody who is benefiting from the chaos that is going on in our country right now. So we should be honest enough and tell those people maybe he too is one of those dropouts who doesn't understand that there are universal principles that ties us to this, what they call UNESCO. And they lie to us that UNESCO will grant independence if we stop sending our children to school. How will UNESCO grant independence to people who are uneducated, who don't comply to the standards that they have made? Where are we today? Where are we today? Where are we today? That's the question, Mr. Liu. Yeah, but many persons actually, he says it's a lie. Many persons are concerned that we prefer not to go to school because for 30 years, what we have studied is not useful. The system of education is not helping. Can we really understand this?
Mr. Leo, there is a foundation for education. And Cameroon might not give us the best education so far, but it has given us a foundation that we can go and extend. The person who is working now with NASA, a Cameroonian lady who did the statistics for flying out the recent aircraft in NASA, is a Cameroonian that was trained here. She only went there to perfect and expand. If we are not giving the basic foundation, how can we go and perfect it outside? We have doctors who have left queues in Cameroon that only gone out to specialize. At least the foundation was given to them. We have a lot of people in Cameroon here who are like Dr. Fobin in America. He was trained here in Cameroon, went to America, and then they discovered the thing in him, and then he expanded. So we are saying that the foundation of the education that we have here in Cameroon is what will take us to any part of the world. We cannot hide behind the gimmicks that the educational system in Africa is not okay. It's not okay, but it has been able to give us a basic foundation through which some of us have gone to, some people have gone to out of the country, and they have gotten a lot of scholarship and privilege to work in great countries in the world. If that foundation was not given here, how come? How possible? If the education was not important, why would you take A-levels here and apply for a university in Sweden, in France, in Germany? It's because they also want the education here. If you think the education system here in Cameroon is not good, take the foundation that you have from me and go out. Because why? You cannot live here and go out of the country with nothing in your head, and you expect to be schooled there. And even those who have traveled out of the country to go and study out of the country, what have they brought back in the nation? Nothing. There is a secret behind the white man's education that has not been revealed to the black man. So it is not by gaining independence we'll get that secret. That's the sincerity. It's not. So when we are fighting a war, we should put down good strategies that can be able to benefit every individual, the aristocratic class, the middle class, and the plebeians. I think we should be able to understand that when laws are established in a nation, it should be able to fit it. That law should be able to go around and satisfy almost everybody. This law of education we established, as far as the crisis is concerned, I can tell you, is putting a round speck in a square hole. It will not work. Like I said earlier, we were deceived. Because of ignorance, we accepted that UNESCO will come suddenly and then solve the crisis. But it looks like it's becoming a dream of lasting peace. So we beg our brothers and sisters at the diaspora and those who are ground zero should reconsider the decision on schools boycott and allow kids go back to school.
Okay. No separatist has ever stopped children, chicken, potatoes, yam, cabbage to go to Douala or Yaoundé. Why ask to stop schools? Paul is writing from Bamenda. Says the system of school should be changed, not only teaching us Mongo Park, Discover River, Nigeria. Okay, Paul is writing from Bamenda. This one says, good evening, Mr. My honorable panelists. I want to appreciate you guys for the sacrifice, but permit me to differ with some of your panelists, like some from Ground Zero. We are not against school, but crossfire, because there is constant fighting. You people should come to Ground Zero and witness gunshots to that you can talk with experience. Mr. Liu advised Patrick to respect people's opinions and rather call a referendum. Let him stop the lie, because he knows it took. Okay. My name is Tebek Peter, writing from Kumba. Good evening to you, Tebek. John Kemgong Kingasong predicted this in his novel Across the Mongolo. It's so pathetic to see how brothers are killing one another while the real enemy is out there appreciating the sin. They are using the divide to rule. Okay, this one says, sir, please. Your message is too long. Sir, please help me tell that with the red that when he speaks abusing those boys, that they are not educated is not good, because it's people like them that have wasted this crisis. Please, okay. I'm sure you're talking to Padia Sanga. This says, good evening to the panelists. I want to object to that statement that holding the fact that Amber boys are all illiterates. It's a lie, because the Amber boys who are graduates from the university who joined the struggle out of frustration. You're writing from Limbe. Good evening. This is neighbor Ernest from Bamenda. My problem is the school boycott is not for the Amber boys or leaders. It's for the security of our children. We on the Ground Zero are seeing what the Cameroon forces are doing with our children. We should rather ask the military to go, and you will see a school resumption. Okay. I'm sure you've answered that question severally. There's military in Kamer and in Limbe and Boya. So I don't know whether it is the military that is refusing for students not to go to school. Parents should break the oath and send their children to schools. Children go to school in war zones in the world. The sacrifices we made for 4 years without solution is enough for us to reason out the school resumption is an obligation and not an option this year. By Mulem Collins, Kajo, writing from Chang. Good evening, sir. Please, we are ready to go to school on the 5th of October. We need the war to stop. We have been 3 years today because of war. We need schools to start, because some of us today are fathers and mothers because of no schools. Some are even dead because of war. Please, please, we need schools to open on October the 5th. Okay, Roland, writing from Iti now, say, greetings, dear panelists. Paddy is right by saying those leaders who were boycotting school should apologize. Okay, but he should also apologize, being a time he preached school boycott. Roland is writing from Moyoka. Good evening to you, Roland. Says, greetings to the house over, Pastor. I love your wisdom, the way you speak I'm Bishop in Boya. Okay, good evening to you, Bishop. Stop calling, please. This one says Cameroon is one and indivisible. Okay. This one says the war is not stopped. Message is not so clear also. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Is success from Bafut, please? Can you people advise the leaders of Southern Cameroon to sit down and rethink? They said school boycott in the northwest and southwest, but we are in Yaoundé paying 100,000 francs as bribe before paying the normal fees. Where is the money going to? Okay, this one says, I've never gone out of my house at 7 p.m. because of my media prime. Thank you, Leo. Prophet Ambe is a true apostle. Okay, thank you. We're glad to note. This one says, school is important, but life is precious. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm called Rebecca from Boya Town. Please, when is school resuming? Because parents want to know so they can prepare for their kids' needs. The 5th of October is the day for back to school now. If I understand Apostle Ambe, he is saying that the war can continue while school is going on. Thank you, Pastor. Okay, Mondi, writing from Limbe. Special greetings to all the panelists. Beautiful analysis from Apostle Ambe. That is Reverend Father Asanji Beltus writing from Bomenda. Good evening, Mr. Liu. If people are saying they are not Ambazonians, they are doing so out of fear. Anglophones all acknowledge that there is an Anglophone problem. So if we are asking for school resumption, stop the blame. All we wanted was for schools to resume. But what about the security of these children? Philip writing from Kumba. Apostle Ambe has spoken on that. Mr. Liu, the truth is the most of these guys have collected money from owners of schools in Yaoundé and Douala. They do this so that our children move to those schools in Yaoundé and Douala. Elvis, okay? Apostle, you are very correct. Children should go to school. Mr. Nji is writing. Now, what should be the way forward for both the separatist leaders? Because as we speak, the positions are divided.
Please come again.
No, what should be the way forward? Because some persons say they need to go to school. Others say, okay, they are concerned with security. But as we speak, some separatist leaders are saying school should go. Others say school should not go. They are also divided.
Well, we should rather look at it from let's look at it from the contrary.
Okay.
If school goes on, it will reduce the armed conflict, which is a simple truth.
Okay.
People don't see it that way. They feel that there should be a ceasefire in order for schools to go back.
Okay.
But I am saying that the contrary, if schools should resume, it is going to reduce the conflict in those two regions. And that's the simple truth. Why do I back that as a fact? Because it is us who used the school thinking that UNESCO was going to cancel the academic year in Cameroon. And it never happened. This is the 4th year. So I think that the boycott of school has erupted a lot of killing and a lot of violence and a lot of youth picking up arms in those two regions. Because if school go on, you will not find the need for children to be recruited in the so-called fighting against the military. You will not have children dying. These children announced, I had a situation where in Bamenda, a young nephew of mine was killed only because he could not go to school and he could not sort out his way left from his right, ended up in Bamenda, did something, and he was killed. If schools were going on, that young man would not have died because he would have been spending time studying. And this is how it has costed the lives of so many people. So I think that it is instead the contrary, that if school should go on, the fact that we have allowed children to carry on their educational activities in those two regions is going to create an enabling environment whereby not only the military will be protecting them, but also the separatist fighters will also be protecting them. So that is going to reduce the level of shootings that we have been hearing.
Okay, there is an aspect, I don't know whether Paddy will answer this or you do that, Apostle Ambe, which is because education is not only formal in classes. There is what we call the culture. We have always talked about the Anglo-Saxon culture. But even though the children are not learning from the classrooms, most of them who are out here are also picking up new knowledge on a different culture. Yes, and the Anglo-Saxon culture that we seek to.
Is there anyway?
Yes.
I earlier mentioned that.
Okay.
Like I said, children who could not say bonjour, who had lived probably in Benawuru or in Messager for many years, they were migrated to this region. They have learned bonjour, which is not something they ever knew. There are so many cultures in this zone. Their dressing pattern is different from the way we dress over there. The way they behave and they react to circumstances is different from the way we are grown up in some villages in the north and south.
So they are in effect in an informal school.
There are informal, yes, because why? There are two ways of learning. You learn by going to school and learn by observation. There's a lot of observation. There are a lot of things that our children are observing this way and picking that they may definitely transport back over there. And once they transport back over there, we have helped to do proper assimilation. As a matter of fact, what we seem to be fighting is what we are instead gingering. What we seem to be standing against is what we are instead sponsoring. What we seem to be probably like trying to annihilate from the mindset of our children, we have instead helped to inculcate it into the very psyche of our own children. There is no way a child will leave this region after 3 to 4 years schooling year without carrying out some habits from this environment, psychologically and physically, back to the other environment. And once they go there, habits are contaminated in nature. So it is easier for that child to go there and then begin to transfer those ideas to the other children who did not even manage to come this way. That is now expansion of proper assimilation by the errors we made. Just imagine how many Anglophones who had never crossed to this region to educate themselves when things were in order the other way. Now that they have crossed and come here, some have entered, there's something called bilingualism. Bilingual education gives you the opportunity to study English and French from Form 1 to Form 5. It means our children are no longer Anglo-Saxon. They are not. The culture of Anglo-Saxon education is gradually being eluded from our society, which is one of the reasons we were fighting to defend. As a matter of fact, we have instead helped to kill what we intended to defend. The cries of the teachers is that the Anglo-Saxon education has been marginalized. So we send our children, or creating an atmosphere of no education, people brought their children this way. We've given them the chance to perfectly bury the Anglo-Saxon culture. Because a child that goes to lycée in this is not an Anglo-Saxon. Anglo-Saxon means purely English. Yes. So what are we fighting? We are trying to fight something, thereby sponsoring it. That's the danger. So we are educating the people. As a matter of fact, we have francophonized Anglophones more than ever before.
Okay, Paddy Asanga, one last word for this back to school, but I will start the last topic we had for today, which has to do with a call for another manifestation on the 6th of October by the CRM and its coalition. Your first impressions about what took place the other day and what is expected to hold across the nation on the 6th of October.
Yes, Mr. Leo, you will not expect me to weigh in without concluding on this main topic that concerns Anglophones. And I think that Anglophones were complaining about what Mr. Biya said in France, that they have been trying to assimilate Anglophones to be Francophones, and the Anglophones have been resistant to it, and that's why he decided that we should get a special status. We must state that one clear. And the assimilation of the Anglophones is, you can notice it by the infidelity of Mr. Ahijo and Mr. Biya of their infidelity to the Constitution of 1961. So we should be very, very clear on that and keep our facts straight. We are not talking here about marginalization, because if we are talking about marginalization, no Anglophone would accept or would have been in Mr. Biya's cabinet, prime minister. You now have people like Atanganji, Ngole, and all those who are sitting there in Yaoundé and running their mouth. Mr. Leo, they wanted to assimilate the legal system by sending lawyers, judges who only speak French and so on and so forth. They wanted to assimilate Anglophones by infiltrating the Anglophone system, by sending teachers and so on. That is the problem, and what we have done now, we have done the reversal of fortune, and we have our people at the other side of the Mongo. Mr. Leo, where are the Amber Barracks? They are schools. You have not seen any army people going to military men going to take schools hostage. All the pictures that we see from Amber boys being killed, we see them in school premises that have been abandoned. So we should be honest enough to say that that is what has been happening, and we should be able to articulate that. Now, you were talking about Professor Maurice Kamto. I am one of those people who think that Mr. Biya must go, and Mr. Biya must go has a clear-cut path, which we started saying this. But we cannot replace Mr. Biya or replace Paul with Maurice. That is where we stand. And we, the Anglophones, we are not going to take any injunctions from Maurice Kamto, because it has been clearly proven that he wants to perpetrate what they call l'alternative crédible in the eyes of France. So he can call Francophones and let them go to the slaughter slab. But we Anglophones, we are still mourning all the deaths that have been caused by a system that he and his friends, they put in place. So if he's calling for a march for Francophones to go and be slaughtered, or people from his church to go and be slaughtered, that would be fine. Maybe the French lobby will come and remove Mr. Biya and put him there, and then we'll start fighting again to see how Anglophones, how he will solve the Anglophone problem. So for me, whatever Maurice Kamto is doing is insignificant to the Anglophones. What we believe is that the Anglophones should go around and rally, sit around the Cardinal Toomey, and then we come out with a legitimate leadership that thinks like you, that thinks like Pastor Ambe, that thinks like Makoge, who is sitting beside you, and then documents should be talking. And when we talk about documents should be talking, we should not be beheading people. You want to remember that it is 1 year now that Florence Ayafa was killed. He was not killed by the military. You want to remember that Samsoya was killed by the military. We regret all those lives, and we cannot be doing the same thing and expecting different results. So Maurice Kamto and Mr. Biya, they want to perpetrate the French system. They want to assimilate us, because Maurice Kamto, by accepting to be part of Mr. Biya's government, he knew the assimilation project that Mr. Biya has said it failed. So Anglophones are not concerned about that. And please, next time, don't talk to me about Maurice Kamto, because if there is somebody who hates Anglophones, it is Mr. Biya, it is Maurice Kamto, and the only comparison in the Anglophone Cameroon is Mr. Aya Paul, who was a parliamentarian for Akwaya, and there is no water, no road. He did nothing for 10 years as a CBDM parliamentarian. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, another call has been made for the population to come out on the 6th of October across the country. Is Cameroon ripe for this?
Before I come to your question, Mr. Liu, I forgot to say something. Cameroon and Senegal is the most educated country in Africa. What Cameroonians have been able to do, majority of African countries have not even started. Cameroonians are the most educated Africans you find in Africa. So if anyone is undermining the education level of Cameroon, I think that person has not read statistics in Africa. Now we talk about assimilation. I think that the strategy of divide and rule has instead increased that assimilation that the head of state declared as has failed is actually now working, because the majority of people you have running or fleeing those regions allows them to do what? To simulate or to draw in those two regions to become one. And that is what we are seeing today. Now, coming back to the aspect of Maurice Kamto, who is calling out again for another protest, which the first one we did not see him outside. I have always said that Cameroonians be very much aware, because when you hear a call like this, it's a call that is calling on the youths to go out. Because at the end of the day, he's not calling for his party members, he's not calling for the other leaders of opposition parties to go out. He's calling for the youth population to go out, which makes in Africa 80%, in Cameroon 60%. So when a youth begins to see where his grandfather is calling him out to go and give his life to support the price of his father to be in power, I think there's something wrong in the mind of that youth, because no youth in his right thinking mind who should be going to school and expect these old people to be taking care of their grandchildren while their children are taking care of them cannot be calling out the same children that we are crying today. In the northwest and in the southwest, we have not even finished mourning that one. We are now calling out for youth to come out in the French region. How long do we keep going to sacrifice this youth to keep these old people in power? It does not make sense. I have said that any leader who wants to lead his people should attach to his vision his will, because his blood will be needed and not the blood of a youth. So if he's calling for another session for people to go out, I expect him and his family and his party member to be at the forefront. And I have said to the youth, when you see that they have started taking victory, then youth, you can go out. Because I will say this, that Kamto is another student of France. In Cameroon, you must understand that France is always going to look the best student and decide who next is going to put in power. So Cameroonians, we have a common enemy. I have said that we must all learn to live together by living apart. Because when we start deciding to live as one, we will always have problems. When you apply one system and you expect it to work on everybody, there's something wrong with that system. Number two, if we don't understand that at this level where Cameroon is driving today, where they are calling to oust the president, we should understand where this battle is being fought. It's not fought at the level of the Cameroonians themselves. The decision of who next is going to be in power tomorrow in Cameroon is not being decided by the Cameroonians. It's being decided by those in the diaspora, the colonial master. So if we don't understand that this is a time where we don't need divisions, like I still say that the opposition parties are only there to create more division and give room for the colonial master to keep deciding who next is going to be president. We are going nowhere until we decide to come together. I have seen a place where revolutions of how presidents are being ousted from power, it is not by a political party. It is a decision taken by the nation and by the population of that nation to go out to fight to get their sovereignty. Cameroon is not free. I wonder where Kamto wants to free Cameroon to, because he does not have a better policy. He does not have a vision that is better than the current one we have in place. Sometimes we say that it's better to allow the sleeping dogs to lie, because if Kamto gets into that place, they will drive him like a small boy. This is not a match for him. This is a match for old people. Cameroonians need to sit down and prepare for their next leader. A leader who understands the vision and understands where this country is supposed to go to.
Yes,
Mr. Liu.
Yes. I've gotten your point. Now, we have many dates circulating on social media. We have some persons who are talking of the second, others say the third, others say the seat. But I've spoken with some persons who have confirmed the seat for the coalition. And now, when you judge by what happened last time when there was that call, we know that something happened at around Ndokoti, and then somewhere in Bonaberi, inside the quarter there, they call it Mabanda. Yes, part of Mabanda. But from last to these conflicting days, you think that lessons have been learned and we are going to see better manifestations in the days ahead? Because many persons actually question why there was a very glaring absence of the leaders leading the whole manifestation.
Well, Mr. Liu, you know, the issue of Professor Maurice Kamto, I always speak in an objective manner. Leadership is when you are at the forefront.
Okay.
When you are a boss, you tell people to go, but a leader goes ahead and tell others to follow. When you are a ruler, you pass rules that you don't obey. But if you're a leader, you take the forefront for others to follow you. Professor Maurice Kamto is not the first person to make a declaration that if the president does not leave for so and so period, they will take actions. It occurred in Angola when Jonas Savimbi asked Eduardo dos Santos to go out of power. I'll take that one as an anecdote to be able to analyze Professor Maurice Kamto's approach to show how unserious Professor Maurice Kamto is. When Jonas Savimbi declared that Eduardo dos Santos will get out of power on a particular day, that they will do something, the first thing that he displaced himself. No leader declaring an insurrection will stay in his house because automatically will give you house arrest. You are supposed to get out of your house for at least 10 to 15 days before your declaration. Kamto stays in his house quietly and declares an insurrection, knowing that they will put him under house arrest. I don't know who is using here as guinea pigs for his political experiments, but I have to let him understand that Cameroonians have outgrown all this political rigmarole and the manipulations in this country. You don't declare an insurrection and stay in your house. It's very obvious that the nation will give you a house arrest. So you are not at the forefront. Who are you sending out? Number two, for those of you who go out when a leader speaks, you don't go out. When a leader goes out, you are on a long stroll. A Chinese proverb says, if you are going ahead as a leader and there's nobody following you, you're on a long stroll. Leadership is when you are able to influence people to follow you. So if you are a man driving a car or in a car without headlamp in the night, you have an accident waiting to happen. Those of you who are going out without Kamto going ahead, you please don't let me laugh. I like to educate my fellow Cameroonians. I love this country. I'm telling you the truth. I love this country. If you are going out without seeing your leader, and that means you have become the leader of the association. Be ready to carry your you guys should let me talk. You see, that's why I'm telling our fellow brothers Cameroonians to understand that they should not be used as political guinea pigs for the experiment of Professor Maurice Kamto. Thirdly, Professor Maurice Kamto attempted going out when he felt like he was cheated for the during the 2018 elections. The experience he had there was supposed to have taught him a lesson. The Englishman said once beaten, twice shy. If Kamto has not been shy twice, I'm sure he will be shy one day by taking such actions. To conclude, I will give this as my own opinion. Nowhere in Africa has power been taken by somebody announcing the date of an insurrection. No. People have been kicked out of power unexpectedly. Go to Hosni Mubarak in Egypt. When the crowd rose up, he was not aware. Go to Blaise Compaoré in Cote d'Ivoire. When they rose up, he was not aware. Recently in Malawi, Lazarus Chakwera, the president, when the elections were rigged, people went to the street without the president knowing Peter Mutharika. Either you go through an unexpected insurrection or you go through a coup d'etat. In Africa, we have had so many coup d'etats. In 1978, Ali Soli was kicked out of power in Comoros Island. In 1987, Abdel Abdallah was kicked out of power in the same Comoros Island. You go to Rwanda before Kagame came to power, there's this guy, Grégoire Kiabanda, was kicked out through a coup d'etat. In that same Rwanda, Jovenel Habyarimana was kicked out through a coup d'etat. In Chad here, Tombambai, the father of the independence, was kicked out of power by Gukunu Wede through a coup d'etat. You go to 1976, Murtala Mohammed was kicked out of power through a coup d'etat. 2001, Laurent Kabila kicked out of power through coup d'etat. In Liberia, Sir Richard Tobert was kicked out of power through coup d'etat. In that same Liberia, Samuel Doe was kicked out through a coup d'etat. If you want to take power in Africa, either through the ballot box, insurrection unexpected, or through a coup d'etat. 1999 in Niger, Ibrahim Barre Mainasara was kicked out through a coup d'etat. And the story continues unending. We cannot sit here and be playing ping pong, putting the lives of innocent citizens at stake, giving them a hope and building castles in the air that will never land. So I'm advising my fellow Cameroonians who are ready for the seat again. That's when your brothers who went out on the 22nd, they have not come out. If you are in a good mood to join them, you are on your own. Thank you.
Okay. Stop calling. Paddy Asanga, we understand that many persons have been taken in, and Kamto himself is under surveillance out there in Yaoundé. He cannot come out of his home, but it is also very difficult for persons to visit him. But we understand that he's working with an international firm that has written severally to the President of the Republic and is monitoring situation. Can this international firm help in any way? You believe in it?
Yes, Mr. Leo, I want to thank you very much. What is happening to Maurice Kamto is not new. Kamto, I saw him complaining that his family has been, his house is he's under house arrest or whatsoever, or house surveillance, what they may call it. But you want to understand that we have gone through that process also. In 1992, you understand that the chairman's compound was impounded by military, and it was only thanks to Takenbeng that they could not go to the chairman. But I heard that his guards were going in and out, and I read somewhere on Facebook that military people or police people they were sending police people to go and buy foodstuff and come and give them, and so on and so forth. Maurice Kamto is talking about an international firm, and you want to understand who Maurice Kamto's international lawyer is. It is somebody they call Dupont Moriti. Dupont Moriti is the Minister of Justice for in Mr. Sarko's cabinet.
Macron, not
connect the dots. Yes, so connect the dots and you understand where Maurice Kamto wants to take Cameroonians. But as my brother and good friend Apostle Ambe had just said, we Anglophones, we are not concerned by those moves, because we are not going to be used as political guinea pigs for the violation and for somebody who participated for the in the assimilation process. You know, the assimilation process of the Anglophones is a political agenda, and if you are appointed to serve that system, then you are part of that assimilation. Remember that one of us, Atanganji Paul, said there was no Anglophone problem, and I don't think that when Maurice Kamto was serving that regime, or when he goes and sit with Dupont Moriti and all those his international law firms, he tells people that there is an Anglophone problem. You want to read letters that are coming from Patasang. Patasang in prison said that Maurice Kamto sent his Secretary General, a man from whom, like you, Barrister Christophe Andon, who came and said they should give them letters of clemency and they will take it to Mr. Biya and France, and that problem would be resolved, and they would have some prébancs, or as they call it in French, in Maurice Kamto's cabinet. But the Cameroonians and Anglophones are very wise today, and that's one of the reasons that I would call myself an Anglophone, because some Francophones keep telling me that we are all Cameroonians. But if they tell me that I'm a Cameroonian, I accept it. But the fact that I'm an Anglophone Cameroonian should be respected, and the content of the special status should be lauded, and people should not be going. Anglophones should not, all the Anglophones who are in the Francophone region should not be part of anything that has to do with Maurice Kamto. If Maurice Kamto wants people from his church to be slaughtered, 16,000 of them, as he says, that have been slaughtered in the northwest and southwest region, so it be done, and maybe the French will think about putting him in power. But as far as we are concerned, we think that the Cameroon problem is an intra-Cameroonian problem, and Anglophones should first of all sit together, go around the cardinal, and then we look for a solution, because Anglophones have also beheaded Anglophones. Divided as Anglophones now, we have no chance to get anything out of that Jacobini system that was put in place by Maurice Kamto, that who supported the constitutional amendment of 2008 that keeps Mr. Biya in power right now. So when you are talking about Maurice Kamto, I get very, very angry, because Maurice Kamto is somebody that I met here in Berlin, and I told him that please join the chairman Frunji and all those who want to bring our refugee back. He accepted to us, but he kept, when he went to Cameroon, Abe Zongang, one of the creators of Mr. Biya and his advisor with Penda Ekoka, those who advised Mr. Biya to sign the economic accords with the European Union, they told him, no, it is not time for us. Now it is time for us to take power. Don't go again and make the Anglophone leadership relevant. So I must say this, because when you people try to cut me when I'm saying these things, you radicalize me. And you want to know who are the allies of Maurice Kamto. They are people like Pa Aya Paul Abine and PAP.
You knew I would cut you. You knew I would cut you there. No. Where is PAP coming into this picture? We are talking about Professor Maurice Kamto and the international law firm. Do you think?
Yes. These people are coming in the picture, Leo. Let's be honest. These people are coming in the picture because these are people who go and look at the letter that people who signed that they are endorsing Maurice Kamto. There are some Anglophones there, and it is only people like Ayapol who collected money from the bus.
Please. We take exception. We take exception to that. It is true the PAP signed it. Nowhere is the name of Ayapol mentioned in that document. The PAP is no longer. I'm sure Ayapol is not the leader of the PAP as we speak. Now, let me take time off, please. We are out of time. Very briefly, if you are coming in. Very briefly.
Yeah. I also just want to add for Cameroonians to understand that let us take a very good case today, the one which is currently going on in Belarus. It is a 73-year-old woman who is leading that protest to oust the president for the elections that were rigged. So what I'm saying here is that if Kamto has been taken on house arrest, he is supposed to inform all his followers not to go out because it's on house arrest. Because if he enjoys sending the people out while he's still on house arrest, I think that is not fair. Because we have about 200 Cameroonians who were being arrested on that day. And Kamto till today has not been able to say anything about it. The question here is, we saw Mandela going into prison for 27 years because he was upholding the rights of his people. Why does Kamto not decide today to tell the government that, okay, instead of locking up these people, instead of beating these people, take me and let me take their place so that they can go free? That is what a true leader is expected to do.
No, but Jesus Christ did that. But Kamto is not Christ.
But that is a leader. That is what we talk about, leadership. So if Kamto is a dictator, let him tell us that he wants to sacrifice children for him to be in power. The next question is that must he be the one to be in power? Must he be the next president? Can he not die for those youth to also take power? Why can't we not look at it on vice versa? Does he take place? That's a 61-year-old man. He's calling out on his grandchildren to go out on the street to protest.
Yes. Let me take some messages. Good evening, Mr. Kum. I want to all to know that God is on your side because his delay is not denial. 2 Peter 3:9. Instead, God is slow for them to repent for their sins. Bro Julius is writing from Kumba. Good evening, Mr. Kum, and to you all. Kamto is being manipulated by France, and Mr. Bia is aware of it. Mr. Bia had not solved the English speaking problem. Is it Kamto that will solve it? Okay, Elvis is writing from Bermuda. Thanks, the crew on board education has defined rules which are not respected in Southern Cameroon. Few distorted historical facts and ideologies on education in Southern Cameroon are multiplication of books and subjects to confuse even class 3 with 13 exercise books, 20th May and 11th February, which do not have any significance. Stop calling, please. I'm Simon, writing from Boyo. Good evening, Mr. Liu and your cool panelists. And Mr. Liu, I do not trust any of these politicians. I think what Barrister and Dr. Nick are portraying are our political strategy. Franklin is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Your program is very exciting. Martin is writing from Mamfi. Please, anybody who writes any long message, I may not be able to read it. It's Fritz Sabina from Boya. I want to say that Kamto have no tangible reason for disturbing the peace of Cameroon because he will still take orders from France. And again, he wants to give positions to his people. Nja Augustine, writing from Bolfamba, says, Mr. Kum, please let us be honest. If the constitution of this nation aspects peaceful manifestation, let Kamto lead his manifestation to Yaoundé, not just in Douala, for Bia is to be. Okay, good evening, Mr. Leo. I've been following your program for quite some time now. Keep on doing the good job. My regards to the panelists, especially to Mr. Padi Asanga. I so much love the way he's hitting the nail on the right spot. Joseph is writing from Boya. Good evening to you all in the house. Mr. Kamto is just seizing the advantage over the Anglophone crisis to achieve his political ambition. Wemba Rufus is writing from Edinau. Good evening. Mr. Lewis, Melissa from Tico, I would like to ask that now that schools is resuming and they have not paid us, how will our children go to school? Okay, good evening. Mr. Leo, when Makoge goes for in front and for back, this, how do people understand him? He is with La République and at the same time not with them. John is writing from Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I like your program very much. Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Please read my message. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Please read my message. What is the message? I've not seen the message. You see, what of those villages that schools have been burned to dust? Will they also go to school on the 5th of October? Renee is writing from Limbe. Okay, we have to end here. Please, many of you write to complain that I don't read the messages. The messages are so many. We can't read all of them, but we are very grateful that you take time off to write so that you contribute to our discussions out here. So, Paddy Asanga, I'll take leave of you. One last word to Cameroonians who are watching you this evening, especially militants of the Social Democratic Front.
Yes, Mr. Leo, thank you very much for giving me that opportunity. I'm not here to talk partisan politics. I'm here to talk the future of our children and the future of Cameroon. Okay. There would be time for me to talk partisan politics when there will be normalcy. I think what unites us is the fact that we have a common objective. We want peace and we want to see the growth of our children and we want to see social cohesion and we want to get one Cameroon that was legated to us by John Bufoncha, by Nde Tumaza, by Felix Roland Moumier, by the UPCs. So that is one of the messages that I want to tell our people right now. But I want to also congratulate Dr. and Pastor Ambe. I think these are one of the people, these are the leaders, they are the people who should be leading us and not basket mouth like myself, sitting here in the diaspora and telling people what they are supposed to do and what they are not supposed to do. These people who are sitting with you and yourself, not our leaders, they should be the people leading us, including those of the Coffin Revolution like Mancho BBC, who are not supposed to be in jail. And I keep calling on the Cameroon government to release the Abakwa boys of the Coffin Revolution because I know their agenda. Their agenda is development. They want progress. They don't want Cameroon to regress. They have been locked up by people like Atanganji and Ndumu Vincent who was delegate. They call him what? Government delegate at the Bamenda City Council. So these young boys and girls who are locked up in Konengi, they should be our leaders, not old people like Fundi, like Kamto, like Mr. Bia, like Abe Zongang, like Pendai Koka, and so on and so forth. I am saying this without any fear or favor because I already know where Fundi is taking us, and Fundi has already passed the baton, and I know him as a man of his words. He will not come back to the decision that he takes. No, he's only going to guide us. So I'm not here to talk partisan politics, but I'm here to encourage those of you at the home front to take the bulls by the horn and sit around yourself and take decisions. Some of us will just come and support you and give you our widow's smile. Thank you, and thank you so much indeed.
Thank you very much, Paddy Asanga, and to you, Atemi Bako, for coming to talking to our televiewers this evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Liu. And I want to say this last word to Cameroonians, that we know Cameroon needs a change, but we should not be eager to follow a change that tomorrow will get up in the morning and it's a nightmare. We must understand the role and the manipulation of the colonial master in this country, and we understand that this is a political manipulation to rise up Kamto to bring another destabilization in Cameroon. We should not also forget that it is the same Bia's regime that has refused to sign the military agreement with France. He also refused to sign the economic agreement with France, also stopped Bolloré
his contract at the seaport. So Cameroon Bia has been doing its best to remove Cameroon slowly away from France. And France understands this. That is why they are trying to technically look for another replacement. So Camto's choice is still going to bring Cameroon back to where we used to be.
Apostle Ambe, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Leo. Thank you, my fellow brothers and sisters in the English-speaking region of the country. We love our people. That's the reason why we are agitating for school resumption. I know, speaking from this angle, most people will think otherwise, but the truth is, an objective leader is not sentimental in his approach. I'm just being very, very objective as far as every Anglophone in this country is concerned. God bless you.
We equally want to thank the production team and to you who took time off to follow the program from start to finish. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.